Chapter 4: Defining Scope, Quality, Responsibility, and Activity Sequence. Chapter Concepts. So, this chapter discusses the project scope, document, quality, how to define what activities need to be done, who will be responsible for them, and in what sequence they will be performed. It describes techniques and tools used to plan the work items and activities that need to be performed in order to accomplish the project objective successfully. The project scope defines what work needs to be done and what deliverables need to be produced. So then specific activities are defined and arranged in a sequence of dependent relationships to determine how the work will be performed. So therefore this uh, chapter will help you to become familiar with clearly defining the project objective, preparing a project scope document, understanding the importance of planning for quality, creating a work breakdown structure, assigning responsibility for work items, defining specific activities, creating a network diagram, and utilizing a project management methodology called the Systems Development Life Cycle for Information Systems Development Project. So after studying this chapter, you should be able to establish a clear project objective, prepare a project scopes document, discuss the importance and elements of a project quality plan, develop a work breakdown structure, prepare a responsibility assignment matrix, describe how to define specific activities, and create a network diagram. Concepts in this chapter support the following project management knowledge areas of the PMI Guide to Project Management Body of Knowledge, PMBOK Guide. Project Integration Management, Project Scope Management, Project Quality Management, Project Resource Management, Project Schedule Management. Establish project objective. The planning process is based on the project objective. The project objective establishes what is to be accomplished. Often the project objective is stated in the project charter or request for proposal, and project objective is the tangible end product that the project team or contractor must produce and deliver in order for the sponsor or customer to achieve the expected benefits from implementing the project. Project objectives should include the following elements: expected benefits that will result from implementation of the project and define success, primary project and end product or deliverable, date by which the project is required to be completed, and the budget within which the project must be completed. Situations can arise where the project objective needs to be modified as the project proceeds because of extenuating circumstances or new information. The project manager and the customer must agree on all changes to the project objective. Any such changes might affect the remaining work scope, deliverables, completion date, and final cost. So when we talk about the expected benefits, the examples include to increase sales volume by 5,000 units annually. Another example is to expand customer base in European markets by 60%. And another example is to reduce the number of patients that contract post-surgical infection by 50%. Another example for the expected benefits for the project are to double the number of donors or to reduce annual overhead costs by $150,000. So some examples of project objectives are to increase emergency room capacity by 20% and reduce average patient waiting time by 50% through a reconfiguration and process improvement project to be completed in 12 months and within a $400,000 budget. So in this objective statement, you can see that many of the key figures for the project are identified in the objective, are described in the objective. For example, the duration, the budget, the performance characteristics, the key performance characteristics, overall budget, and the overall duration of the project. Another example is to reduce outstanding accounts payable by $20 million by implementing a new billing collection and receiving system by May 31 with the budget not to exceed $220,000. So in this case, again, the time and cost requirements have been mentioned and the expected benefit have been mentioned in the project objective. Another example is to raise $40,000 for hunger relief by organizing a community festival for the last weekend in September with a budget of $3,000. So this, you can see that the details of the information, the details of the information are provided in specific manner rather than in a loose manner. Okay, so specific information is provided. Another objective is to double the annual sales revenue by creating an online shopping and fulfillment capability by April 30 with a budget not to exceed $40,000. And then similarly, you have some more examples of the project objectives. So all of these project objective examples follow a similar pattern. For example, let's see these last ones. To meet new environmental regulatory requirements by installing a new filtration system within 15 months and budget of $3.2 million. So in this case, the 15 month and the 3.2 million are the requirements for the time and budget, but the quality related or performance related environment have been mentioned by the new environmental regulatory requirements. So that means something has to be compared with the new regulatory requirements which have already been set up. So they need not be to be specifically described in some more details over here. So in a number of ways the objectives can be described. A requirement for the project objective, a good project objective, is that it should not be ambiguous. For example, a project objective such as complete the house is too ambiguous because the customer and the contractor may have different views of what is meant by complete. A better objective is to complete the house by May 31 in accordance with the floor plans and specifications dated October 15 and within a budget of say $200,000. Okay, next let's define the project scope. The project scope defines what needs to be done, and it includes items such as a project scope document includes many of the items contained in the project charter, a request for proposal or contractor's proposal, but in much greater detail. The document is valuable for establishing a common understanding among project stakeholders regarding the scope of the project. The project scope documents usually contains the following sections. Customer requirements define the functional or performance specifications for the project's end product and other project deliverables. It should also include or reference applicable technical specifications, standards, and codes that must be used and met regarding quality and performance of the project work and deliverables. Statement of work defines the major tasks that will need to be performed to accomplish the work that needs to be done and produce all the project deliverables. Uh, the project scope statement also includes the information about the deliverables. Deliverables are the products or outputs that the project team or customer will produce and provide to the customer during and at the completion of the performance of the project. Uh, then acceptance criteria. Acceptance criteria for all project deliverables must be described in greater detail than what is stated in the project charter or request for proposal. And work breakdown structure is a hierarchical decomposition of the project work scope into work packages that produce the project deliverables. So the agreed upon project scope document establishes the baseline for any changes that may be made to the scope during the performance of the project. And a change control system needs to be established to define how changes will be documented, approved, and communicated. The project team or contractor must avoid scope creep, which is informally making changes to the project scope without appropriate approval. Why should creep be avoided? So I have just talked about the creep, which is the unintended changes into the product. So, but this should be avoided. But why? Because these are the informal changes to the project. So all the changes to the project should be formally applied. No approvals for changes, which means that these are not only the informal changes but also the unapproved changes. And of course this should mean that it is an additional work that is not documented, and it may cause errors definitely, and it may cause rework because these are the unintended changes. So and then that will cause errors, and then these errors have to be corrected, and the correction on those errors will be in the form of the rework, and could make the project over time and over budget. So it is quite obvious. Next, plan for quality. So planning for quality is a necessary yet often forgotten or dismissed function on a project. It is essential to have a plan for assuring the quality of a project, deliverables, and results, rather than waiting until the end of the project to check if the sponsor or customer requirements and expectations on project deliverables have been met. So it is important to plan for quality in performing the project. This helps assures that the work is done according to specifications and applicable standards, and that deliverables meet acceptable acceptance criteria. A project quality plan includes or references project specifications and standards, industry or government standards for design, testing, safety, construction, etc. Codes that must be used and meet during the performance of the project work. Written procedures for using various quality tools and techniques. The key to quality control is to monitor the quality for the work early and regularly throughout the performance of the project. Compare results with quality standards and make any necessary corrective actions immediately rather than waiting until all the work is completed before checking or inspecting for quality. So therefore, to ensure that a project is done right the first time, a project should focus on doing the work in accordance with quality standards and therefore preventing quality problems. So now let's talk about uh, something about the quality. Uh, so it is often said that some people think they never have enough time to do the work right the first time, but then must take the time later to redo it correctly. So that means haste makes waste. So what can be done to change this thinking? So I think to answer this question, maybe what you can do is you can first of all clearly list the quality standards and then have monitors in place to see if the work is meeting quality standards. Then submit sample work to be sure work meets standards. And then if it meets a higher quality product, determine the effects and costs of a later delivery. Okay, so now let's talk about creating the work breakdown structure. Once the project scope documents has been agreed on and prepared, the next step in the planning phase is to create a detailed work breakdown structure. So the work breakdown structure is a deliverable oriented hierarchical decomposition of the project work scope into work packages or activity groupings that produce the project deliverables. So creating a work breakdown structure is a structured approach for organizing all the project work and deliverables into logical groupings. This helps to subdivide the deliverables into more manageable components called work items to help ensure that all tasks required to complete the project are identified and included in the baseline project plan. And the work breakdown structure should be deconstructed to a level that identifies individual work packages for each specific deliverable listed in the project scope document. And dividing the work into project packages and work items helps a contractor increase the level of confidence that all the activities that need to be performed to produce the deliverables can be defined. The types and quantities of resources can be determined. The associated activity durations and costs can be reasonably estimated. The work items should be broken down to the level at which a single organization, that is marketing, communications, materials engineering, human resources, a subcontractor, etc., or individual can be assigned responsibility and accountability for accomplishing the work package. And then work breakdown structure can be created using a graphical uh, chart format or as as a list. So here in this figure, a work breakdown structure has been shown. And this is the work breakdown structure with the breakdown to different levels. This figure depicts the work breakdown structure in a graphic chart format for a community festival project. Note that not all the branches in a work breakdown structures have to be broken down to the same level. A more clear picture you can see from your textbook. This is another view for the work breakdown structure. One is the graphic chart and the other is the indentured list. So as you can see that these two charts are relatively clear to see in this figure, and rather very simple project has been mentioned over here. In the graphical chart, so you can see that the project name is at the top, customer market study, and this customer market study has been assigned to Jim, so he may be the project manager. And then this consumer market study has two components. One is the questionnaire and the other is the report. Okay, so the questionnaire has been assigned to Suzanne, and the design in the questionnaire, then there are two activities: design of the questionnaire and then getting the responses of the questionnaire. So therefore Suzanne will be designing or creating the questionnaire, and this will be the responsibility for the Steve to get the responses. So once these two activities are created, then the report can be created, and the report is created by Jim. And for this report there are two parts. So software application, that means maybe the results of the study are input into the software for the analysis. So this may be performed by another person, Andy, and then final report Jim, the project manager, may create. Remember that although I am describing the elements of this project in like something like more like hierarchical manner, hierarchical aspect of the or the sequential manner, the sequential aspect of the elements is better represented by the project schedule. The main idea for creating the work breakdown structure is to present the hierarchical structure of the project. So the same information can be also represented in the indented form as well. So you can see that under the consumer market study, we have the questionnaire questionnaire and the report, and under the questionnaire you have the design and the responses, and then under the report you have the software and the responses, and then their final deliverables are also mentioned. So one of the deliverable for the design is questionnaire approved, and the all completed responses received. This is the deliverable, and the application software is working, and then the final report. So these are the deliverables in this case. So these deliverables can also be identified in any form in this graphical form of the work breakdown structure. Yes, so the work breakdown structure can be represented in the graphical as well as in the list format as well. I think the list format may be more suitable for large projects, because if we just try to create the graphical format, so the graphical format may be too large to fit into the space. So therefore the indentured list is helpful for large projects where a diagram would become too large and unwieldy. One of the way for one of the information in the work breakdown structure is that we can put the names of the person who will be responsible for certain deliverables. So this is related with the assigning responsibility. Okay, so the responsibility assigning can also done specifically with another format which is called as the responsibility assessment assignment matrix. So in the responsibility assignment matrix, what you can do is you can make use of the work breakdown structure, and then you can create the responsibility assignment matrix. So in this case, you can list the work breakdown structure elements in the listed format, and then you can list the activities or the different work packages on the horizontal axis, and then you can assign the responsibilities uh, to various people. Okay, so here you have the work items, and here you have the people on the horizontal axis. Okay, and people on the horizontal axis, activities or the work items are on the vertical axis, and then wherever this the people and the work item are meeting, then we can put like different coding such as P and S in this case. So for example, for this person over here, for this work item festival is primarily responsible, and then for all other are support responsible. Okay, so therefore the assign responsibility activity is done through a responsibility assignment matrix, which defines who will be responsible for the work. It is a tool used to designate the individuals responsible for accomplishing the different work items in the work breakdown structure. So the figures on the right depicts the responsibility assignment matrix for the work breakdown structure, and the community this is a community festival project. So what we can see over here is that the responsibility assignment matrix often uses a P to designate primary responsibility and S to indicate support responsibility for a specific work item. The responsibility assignment matrix shows all the individual associated with each work item in the work breakdown structure, as well as all the work items associated with each individual. Only one individual should be designated as the lead or primary person responsible for each work item. Yeah, so it will be better for the management of the task that one person should be the lead or the primary responsibility person, and for that specific task the others may have one or more people may have for the support responsibility activity. After creating the work breakdown structure, now it is the time to define activities. So using the work breakdown structure, the individual or team responsible for each work package must next define all the specific activities that need to be performed to produce the end item or deliverables. So breaking down each work package into its common component activities reveals the level at which each activity must be performed to produce the deliverable. So some activities may not be easily definable. When all the specific activities have been defined for all of the work packages, they should be consolidated into a comprehensive activity list. Because the allocation of resources, there may be wait time between the end of one activity and the start of another activity. So the figure over here shows the work breakdown structure for a consumer market study project. It depicts the specific activities that need to be performed for each work package. So you can see that in this case, design, And so as you can see that the activities are result from the work breakdown structure. So at the lowest level of this work breakdown structure, we have the work packages. So design is one work package, responses, software, and report are other work packages. And for each work packages, we have developed several activities. So for example, for design, the one of the activities identify target consumers, develop a draft questionnaire, pilot test questionnaire, review comments and finalize questionnaire, and develop software. And similarly for other work packages, you develop the activities. So once you develop the activities, then you will have the list of activities. So once you have the list of activities, you have to sequence activities. So activities are sequenced in network diagram. So a network diagram defines the sequence of how the activities will get done. It is a tool for arranging the specific activities in the best sequence and defining their dependent relationships. So the three most common techniques for network diagramming are program evaluation and review technique PERT, the critical path method CPM, and the precedence diagramming method PDM. In the past, there were distinguishable methodological differences between PERT and CPM. Today, however, when most people refer to a CPM diagram or PERT chart, they mean a generic network diagram. So this top figure shows a complete network diagram for a consumer market study project with the detail with the person responsible for each activity included on the diagram. A more clear picture you can see from the textbook. And then this bottom figure shows a network diagram for a web-based reporting system project. There are certain principles on which the network diagrams work. Uh, each activity is represented by a box in the network diagram, and the description of the activity is written within the box. So as is shown over here. Okay, activities consume time, and their description usually begins with the verb such as get, wash, dry in this example, for example. Uh, activities have a dependent relationship. That is, they are linked in a logical sequence in a network diagram to show which activities must be finished before others can start. Okay, so for example, dry car can start only when wash car has been completed. So certain activities have to be done in serial sequences. Some activities may be done concurrently. So in this case, you can see that get volunteers and buy materials, these are the activities which can be done concurrently, but construction of the booth can be only done after getting the volunteer and the buying the materials. And similarly, painting of the booth can only be done after constructing of the booth. And dismantling of the booth can be done only after the booth has been completed, and then cleanup can also only be done when the booth has been painted. And then on the other hand, dismantling of the booth and the cleanup can be done simultaneously. These numbers over here, 3, 7, 4 in the side boxes, they are just for the identification of the activities. Loops. So what do we call as the loops? So loops are illogical relationships among the activities. So an illogical relationship among activities is known as loops. So for example, over here, when we say that B follows A, and then that is B starts after A is finished, then C starts after B is finished, but then we cannot say that A starts when C is finished. So a looping is not acceptable in the network diagram. So in preparing a network diagram, drawing activities in a loop is not acceptable because it portrays a path of activities that perpetually repeats itself. Another type of technique which is done in the networking diagram is the laddering. So some projects have a set of activities that are repeated several times. This top figure shows a series of activities that must be done in serial sequence, which means that for an activity with 3 people at any one time, only one person is working while 2 other people are waiting. The middle figure, shows a set of activities that can be performed concurrently. However, it is often not practical to perform the activities in this way because the organization would need triple the experts, one for each room. Okay. And the bottom figure shows a technique known as the laddering. So this approach allows the project to be completed in the shortest possible time while making the best use of the available resources. Okay, so in this case, in the laddering, for example, you can say that the project is, say, prepare room 1. First prepare room 1, and then after preparing the room 1 is completed, then painting of the room 1 is performed. And after preparing the room 1, then preparing the room 2 can be started. And then when the preparing the room 2 can be started, then painting of the room 2 can be started. When preparing of the room 2 is completed, then painting of the room 2 can be started. Okay, and when the painting of the room 1 is completed, then trimming of the room 1 can be started. Okay, and similarly in this way the work can be performed. So in the first case, when these activities are performed sequentially, then when preparing of the all rooms is performed first, then the painting of the all rooms is performed later, then the trimming of the room is performed one after the other. So it takes the most amount of time. In the case of the parallelly performing the activities, we need more resources. That means some people we will need for preparing the room 1, another set of people we will need for preparing the room 2, and the another set of people will be needing for preparing the room 3. So a number of people will be needed. What the number of people will be needed. So therefore this laddering approach may provide a kind of like more optimized approach for reducing the duration of the project and completing the project in some less amount of time. So now let's look at the how to create the network diagram. So of course in this case there are certain tips and techniques which one can follow. First of all, to create the network diagram, a network diagram is a drawing of the activities for a project displayed in boxes in their logical sequence and connected by arrows to indicate dependent relationships. The network diagram shows how the project should be performed from start to completion. So these questions need to be answered regarding each activity. The network is based upon the answers. Which activities must be finished immediately before this activity can be started? which activities can be done concurrently with this activity, which activities cannot be started until immediately after this activity is finished. So these types of questions must be answered when sequencing the activities. So certain guidelines for the level of detail in the network diagram are uh, based on the network work breakdown structure for a project. Specific activities should be defined should be defined for each work package. Okay, for each work package, specific activities should be defined. It may be preferable to draw a summary level network first that depicts a small number of higher level activities and then expand to a more detailed network. And number three, the level of detail may be determined by certain obvious interface or transfer points, such as a change in responsibility or if there is a tangible output or product or deliverable as a result of an activity. Activities should not be longer in estimated duration than the project progress review. And it is not unusual or progressively elaborate the network diagram as the project progresses and more information becomes clear. Sub-networks can be used to represent similar projects for different customers. So certain portions of the project may include the same types of activities in the same sequence and with the same dependent relationships. Let's see one example for planning for the information systems development. Later on, we will also look at the Microsoft project deployment for this course. The Microsoft project example will continue in the remaining chapters as well. This example for the planning for information system development highlights the concept for each of the topic which we are discussing. So an information system is a computer-based system that accepts data as input, processes the data, and produces useful information for users. Okay. And information systems include computerized ordered entry systems, e-commerce systems, automatic teller machines, and billing, payroll, and inventory systems. The development of an IS is a challenging process that requires extensive planning and control to ensure that the system meets user requirements and is finished on time and within budget. So a project management planning tool or methodology called the Systems Development Lifecycle SDLC is often used to help plan, execute, and control IS development projects. It consists of the following concepts. So, problem definition. So, data are gathered and analyzed, and problems and opportunities are clearly defined. System analysis. The development team defines the scope of the system to be developed, interviews potential users, studies the existing system which might be manual, and defines user requirements. System design. Several alternative conceptual designs are produced and evaluated. So the best is selected for further design and development. And then is the system development. The actual system is brought into. So in the system development, the actual system is brought into existence. System testing. This step involves looking for logical errors, database errors, errors of omission, security errors, and other problems that might prevent the system from being successful. And the system implementation. The existing system is replaced with the new improved system and users are trained. Okay, so let's see one example, an IS example, Internet Applications Development for ABC Office Designs. So a corporation called ABC Office Designs has a large number of sales representatives who sell office furniture to major corporations. Each sales representative is assigned to a specific state, and each state belongs to one of 4 regions in the country. To enable management to monitor the number and amounts of sales for each representative for each state and for each region, ABC has decided to build a web-based information system that will track prices, inventory, and the competition. The IS department within the corporation has assigned Beth Smith to be the project manager of the web-based reporting system development project. The following 4 slides depict figures related to this project. First, we will see the major tasks that were identified for the project. Then we will look at the responsibility assignment matrix. For the project with the primary and secondary responsibilities for each task assigned. We will then look at the list of all tasks to be done with the immediate predecessor for each task listed to the right of the task. And finally, we will examine the network diagram created by Beth and the project team that represents the interdependencies listed in the immediate predecessor list. So in this example, IS example, the work breakdown structure, and then this work breakdown structure has been created following the system development life cycle concept. So this figure depicts the major tasks that were identified for the project. The work breakdown structure follows the system development life cycle. This is the responsibility assignment matrix. Here we see the responsibility assignment matrix for the project with the primary and secondary responsibilities for each task assigned. And next we see the task list and predecessors. So this figure depicts a list of all tasks to be completed with the immediate predecessors for each task listed to the right of the task. So you should examine the dependencies of the task over here. And next, using this information, the network diagram is created. So here is the network diagram which can be created by this information and the project team. Okay, so in order to help with the tasks of the information management, especially with the project planning and scheduling, project management information systems are developed. So a wide variety of affordable project management information systems are available for purchase by the companies. So these systems allow the project manager and the project team to plan and control projects in a completely interactive mode. Planning and testing different options for task durations, dependencies, constraints, resources, schedules, and costs can be completed in a project management information system. So the information systems help project managers to create reports, diagrams, and charts, change management network diagrams, and Gantt charts. Project management information systems also interface with other software applications. There is an appendix A in this book with this chapter. It contains information related to project management information systems, such as the Microsoft project. Okay, so with the topics which we have discussed in this chapter, we can discuss the following critical success factors. So plan the work and then work the plan. So it is important to develop a plan before starting to perform the project. So taking the time to develop a well thought out plan is critical to the successful accomplishment of any project. Participation builds commitment. So by participation in the planning of the work, individuals will become committed to accomplish it according to the plan. The project must have a clear objective of what is to be accomplished. The objective should be defined in terms of end product or deliverable, schedule, and budget, and it must be agreed upon by the customers and the project team that will perform the project. The project scope document is valuable for establishing common understanding and agreement and among project stakeholders regarding the scope of the project. Having a quality plan at the outset of the project is extremely beneficial because it will help prevent incurring additional costs and schedule extensions due to rework caused by the work and deliverables that fail to meet quality requirements and customer expectations. The key to quality control is to monitor the quality of the work early and regularly throughout the performance of the project, rather than waiting until all the work is completed before checking or inspecting for quality. And lastly, the network diagram is also a communication tool for the project team because it shows who is responsible for each activity and how each person's work fits into the overall project. Summary. The planning process is based on the project objective, which establishes what is to be accomplished. The project scope defines what needs to be done. The project scope document usually contains the customer requirements, statement of work, deliverables, acceptance criteria, and a work breakdown structure. The quality plan must include or references the specifications, industry, or government standards, and codes that must be used and met during the performance of the project work. The work breakdown structure establishes the framework for how the work will get done to produce the project deliverables. A responsibility assignment matrix defines who will be responsible for the work. Activities define more specifically how the work will get done. A network diagram defines the sequence of how and when the activities will be performed. And project planning is a critical activity in developing an information system. A project management planning tool or methodology called the systems development life cycle is often used to help plan, execute, and control IS development projects. And numerous project management information systems are available to help project managers plan, track, and control projects in a completely interactive way.